Hello and welcome. This is Working Class to World Class. But before we go any further, I do have a little favour of you. If you could hit that follow or subscribe button, then that would be a massive help. Thank you. In this episode, I am catching up with arguably one of the most creative and famous chief marketing officers of his era. He has led the marketing for Unilever, Burger King, Activision Blizzard, who own the likes of Candy Crush, Call of Duty, Warcraft. He's picked up some of the biggest industry awards. He speaks at events, he judges awards. Oh my goodness, I don't think there's much that he cannot do. He has made a brilliant name for himself and it's really, truly well deserved. Check out this fantastic story. Breaking through the barriers of adversity. I'm Lynn Lester and this is Working Class to World Class.
Well, Fern, I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by you today because as far as I'm aware and as far as I know, you're probably one of the most famous marketers in the advertising industry. Would you agree with that?
I think I was lucky enough to work with very talented people and be part of some really amazing campaigns that made like massive, like loud noise in the industry. But it's very easy for me to claim uh, to claim those things, but like it's always like a team sport, really. And I think I feel I should feel very fortunate, like to work with very talented people, both on the agency side and on the client side here, and have done like some really cool stuff that got talked about a lot all over the world.
You have, and we're going to talk about it. But firstly, what we are going to do is we're sort of going to take a trip back down memory lane because you were not always this famous marketer, for want of a better word. You were, at one point, you were just a little boy who lived quite a humble life, and I would really love you to give people a snapshot of what that was like. So if you can tell everyone, where were you brought up?
Yeah, so I have this funny accent because I was born in Brazil. I was born in Rio de Janeiro, which is the southeast part of Brazil. My dad was born in the Amazon. And my mom was born in Bahia, which is the northeast of Brazil, which tend to be, especially like back in the day, I would say like less developed parts of the country. You know, like I think that the epicenter of Brazil when it comes to the economy is more like São Paulo and Rio. And I grew up like everywhere. My dad was in the army, so every like 3-4 years, we would have to move around. So I was born in Rio. I moved to the Amazon as a little kid. I lived in Manaus, which is the capital of Amazon. So I have some really funny pictures on the Amazon River or like playing with animals and stuff like that. I have like very like vague memories of that time because I was very little. I remember I had a turtle as a pet, which was really fun. And then after Amazon, I moved to Bahia, and I lived there. Like I didn't have more memories. Like I was like probably like 4 and 5 years old. And then I went back to Rio, and I lived in Rio up to the beginning of my high school years. And then I moved to Bahia again, and I did high school in Bahia. And then like I did my college in São Paulo, in the countryside of São Paulo. So I grew up like moving around, which I think really helped shape my personality because as a kid, every time you move, especially in the beginning, like as a kid, when you move around, when you move for the first time or the second time, it's not easy, right? I mean, because you have like all your friends and back in the day, there was no video conference or like, it was not even easy to call people. I mean, we were writing letters to friends like on those years. We're talking about early 80s. And it really helped shape my personality in the sense that I became very adaptable to like new places and groups and new people and all that. We always lived up to college. Like I always lived in an army compound. Because my dad was in the army, and we didn't pay rent, right? I mean, that was one of the benefits of being in the army. The places were like normal places, like not ostentatious or anything like that. After all, it's like from the army. The good thing is that they offer lots of opportunities to play sports, and because the army trains on those places, So I always grew up like playing soccer, volleyball, stuff like that. And yeah, so like moving around, like getting used to more people, different people. Um, my parents, fortunately, I have a sister. She's like 5 years younger. They always they always put our education first in terms of the priorities for the family. So my dad like never had like an awesome car, or like we never had an apartment or a house. We are always like living in army compound, or after my dad retired, like a rental apartment. And they really like try to invest all they could in our education. Like a public school in Brazil is not the best. Um, like a college, public college can be really good, but growing up, like I think that if you have like a private school, which sounds expensive, but like it's very different private school in Brazil than in the US or in the UK. Um, it's just a means to for you to have access to better education. And they put all their money, all the little money that they have, they put on that, on my education and on my sister's education. Um,
Yeah, that sounds so cool. And because I guess the thing is, you're right. Like when you talk to people like where I live, they would probably say this guy's not working class because he went to private school. But you're right, it's context is everything. Because actually over here, if you went to private school, you were considered rich. But where you were brought up, you weren't rich. Your mum and dad invested, but also I guess because of that, there was things that you had to sacrifice as well. So, what kind of things did you not get as a consequence of having a better education, would you say?
it's funny because like I think that um, it's hard for you to now when I look back, right? I feel like, oh, I didn't have much, but when you were there, like that was my reality. So I never felt I didn't have what I needed. You see what I'm saying? Like, so for
Yeah.
instance, like these days, I think all kids are super spoiled. You know what I mean? Like, at least I remember getting a calculator for birthday, or a tape recorder for Christmas, and I would be the happiest kid in the block, in the town, like with my little calculator with colorful numbers. Like, if I give a calculator to my son, he would throw my head. You know what I mean? Like, so, but to me, like, I was like, I used to love playing with GI Joe as a kid, and like and I wouldn't have the vehicles at this time, so I would build cardboard stuff, and I would have a great time. You know what I mean? Like playing soccer was my favorite thing. It's not really expensive. Like you just borrow a ball and that's it. You can play soccer in Brazil like anywhere. And the things we had, like I never felt I missed anything. You know what I'm saying? Like I think that I was fortunate enough that yes, my dad was in the army. You don't make money, you don't get rich being the army in Brazil. I know, like it's very different than that army, probably like in the US or the UK. And my dad was a professor in the army, so he also invested in his education. His parents were poor. It's like living the Amazon. Like it's literally like there was nothing there, like back in the day. So he got to the army to study, and then he grew up in the army, became a professor of civil engineering in the army school. And so maybe because of that, he always saw education as the best. There was always food on the table. Like we always had our roof, like thanks to the army, and they always invested all they had. Literally, like the first thing that the money would go to would be for education. And I think that maybe that's why growing up, my parents were always like very strict with me in terms of like grades and studying and all that good stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like I was always
Yeah.
like a really good student. Um, I wanted to go to a public college because, as I said, there are some really good public colleges in Brazil. And I wanted for them to stop paying for my education by then, right? I mean, then to get a job and all that, so I could start making my own money. But like Yeah, I was just like a normal kid. I would take a bus to go to school. I would ride my bike to do a class here, a class there. Like this is like back in Rio, um, and uh, life was like good. You know what I mean? Like I think that when that's your reality, you I never like I never felt like, oh, my friends have more money than I have. They did, um, but like I never felt like I was lesser um, or I don't know, different or anything like that. You know what I mean? Like to me, I was always Brazil is a very diverse country, right? I mean, like colonization, skin color, maybe because I was around Brazil for throughout my whole life, like I always felt I fit in no matter what environment I was in, even if I were the kid with less money in school or whatever.
Yeah, you know, I guess the thing is, because I can't imagine living that army life. Like, I've lived in the same place I was brought up my whole life. Like, I've never left this working class area, which is my home. So I can only imagine what it was like to sort of go to different places. You know, you make it sound so easy, but was it easy? Like, to always fit in and integrate, make new friends?
Um, it's not easy, and for sure it it definitely puts you out of your comfort zone, right? I mean, um, the accent is different. The way people dress is a little bit different. The type of music people listen is different. Brazil's a very large country, so if you go to the northeast, the food is different in the southeast. So it's very different. So I remember like first day new school was like anxious, right? I mean, I was nervous and all that. Like we were sitting here, like we will enjoy this. These guys all speak differently than I do. Um, uh, will I will I be like welcome? And to be honest, I always was. You know what I mean? I don't know if it's because of my attitude or because I got lucky or because this is still the way it is. But I remember moving from Rio to Bahia, really southeast, Bahia's northeast. It was like a 2 day drive. My dad and I drove. I was a kid, so he drove. I was just like there. Um, and going on the first day in school, like all new people, it's a co-ed school. So and I remember the first day I left, I was already friends with Marcus, who is still my friend today. And we're talking about this is 1990. And we went to his house and I had lunch of his seventh day one of school. And it's funny because like I have like my friends on WhatsApp groups, right? And they're all different buckets. I have my friends from Bahia, my friends from Rio, you know what I mean? My friends from
Yeah.
college, and I have they are completely different, you know, in terms of geography, style, and all that. So no, it was not easy, but I think it was good. You know what I mean? Like I think it made me very resilient and adaptable, which I think are characteristics that can help you succeed in life, not just at work, but in life in general.
Yeah, I suppose for your dad as well, being brought up in the Amazon and being in the army, you know, I can imagine probably like most parents, he probably instilled lots of values. Obviously, one of them, as you said, was education. But what other kind of things do you think he sort of instilled in you as a person that maybe you've not forgotten to this day?
Um, I think that I think that because of him, I think that it's like relationship, like right, kids and their parents. You admire your parents. Like he became a civil engineer professor, so he was obviously like really good with numbers. Uh, I became very good with numbers, through school and college and all that. I did some really geeky things, and like I was competing on the mathematics team for the state of Bahia at some point. Um, and um, uh, uh, and I think that the value of studying and the value of education, like I didn't have to work as a kid. You know what I'm saying? Like there are many kids that work, and if you work, while while some kids were working, I was studying, right? Because my parents decided to maybe compromise or cut on their stuff to allow my sister and I to go to a school that their parents could probably not afford, let's say, right? Even if
Yeah.
they did cut, right? Or it was not even available, right? Because my dad in the Amazon, like, I don't think that back in the day, I think today is very different, but like back in the day, I think it was a completely different era. Yeah, my dad always said, like, look, if there is one thing that you should invest on, it should be your knowledge. Like that's the one thing that you're never going to lose. So like, and my mom always pushed me really hard to study, to do my homework, to check on my grades and all the stuff. You know what I mean? Like, because I think that she cared. It was not like I am an investment. It was not like that. It was
Yeah.
more like, hey, we're doing this for you. We want to make sure that you take the full advantage and the full benefit of that.
Yeah. So whilst I guess, you had the privilege of the education, what I'm kind of sensing from you is that your life is quite simple and you sort of almost took what you had and you were very grateful for that at the time. You never sort of pushed the boundaries is kind of what I'm sort of getting from you. And I guess, when you sort of went to school, what then happens? What was the sort of next step after school?
You mean in college?
Yeah.
So yeah, so like I applied. Usually in Brazil, you finish high school, and then the last year of high school, you need to apply to a college, and then each college has its own exam, right? And I was there in Bahia, and there are some good colleges in Bahia, but I wanted to go to the best college I could get in. And the school in Bahia prepares you to to the exam of the college in Bahia, which was different than the exams of the college I wanted to go in. So I had to study by myself a lot to prepare me to do a different exam than the one I was being prepared to. And I applied to two or three different colleges, all of which were outside of Bahia, which was the state I was in. I got accepted in the one I wanted, which was in the countryside of São Paulo, in Campinas, and in mechanical engineering, which was exactly what I wanted. Back then, I didn't know what marketing was. Like, I didn't know, like, there was no, like, public school college for marketing. You would need to go private, and I didn't even know what it was. Like, and I didn't want to go private school because I wanted to, like, stop, like, getting money from my parents and do my own
Yeah.
thing. Um, and then I moved from Bahia by myself to the countryside of São Paulo to study mechanical engineering. And the university was amazing. I still have amazing friends that we were together in college. And the course is like a 5-year course. I confess to you that the beginning I was like relatively bored because I always like I never paid a lot of attention in classes. I was more of the type who study at home, and do the exercise at the end of the chapter. And it was a lot of theory and theory and theory on in mechanical engineering. And so I said, I will get a job. Maybe that's going to help me, like, like enjoy more. So I got a job. I think it was on the second or third year, helping a professor with a thesis that he was doing. So I was working for the professor. Then I said, okay, that's great, but like I want to work for a company. So I got an internship in Unilever in a factory. So I was on the shop floor of the factory, like working on quality assurance for packaging in a fabric, in a laundry detergent like factory. And it was really fun. Like I played soccer with the factory team. We had our barbecues like on Thursdays, and it was super nice. The guys were really awesome. Um, and that's when I heard the word marketing for the first time. Like when the marketing team came from São Paulo to present the innovation plan, the design, the advertising, all that stuff. And when I saw, I was like, oh, this is way cooler than what I'm doing here. Like, not that what I'm doing is not great. I think that it depends on what you like, right? I always like to exercise both sides of my brain. Like I was good with numbers, but I always loved drawing. And when I was not paying attention on classes, I was drawing, and like I love photography, design, um, comedy, and all that stuff. So I thought maybe I can do this, and maybe it's going to be more fun. So when time came, I applied to the management trainee program for Unilever, and it's a really top program back in Brazil. I think in the UK too, but it was like really solid. I think it still is. I think there were like, I don't know, like more than 20,000 people applying, and there were like 24 positions. And I was lucky enough to be one of the chosen ones, and they allowed me to go straight into marketing, from the factory to marketing, without ever touching a book of Philip Kotler. Um, and um, and then arriving in marketing, it was really like, again, like very fortunate to work, to have bosses that had patience with me, that invested in coaching me, teaching me. Uh, like I tried to leverage the knowledge I had from engineering to make strides in some projects that would require a bit of skill on that, and that worked well for me. I was really well respected by the people in manufacturing and like in the factories, because they knew where I was coming from. Uh, yeah, so like, and then it was like growing from small brands to larger brands to portfolio of brands to regional portfolio to global portfolio. Like, I spent 18 years in Unilever, including
Wow.
the internship. Yeah. So it was a really fun journey. And I think it's the type of company that allows you to grow and to learn. You know what I mean? Like, and again, like, and I continue to apply the things I learned as a kid. Like, the I always crave to be in a situation or in a position where I'm learning. Like, and that comes from education. Comes from my dad saying, like, "Hey, the only thing that people cannot take it from you is your knowledge." Like, so when I felt that things were becoming a bit repetitive in Unilever, because I was doing the brand like in the scope that I was dream of doing there, I decided to change. And then I went to RBI, Burger King, Tim Hortons, and Popeyes. When that started to become a little bit repetitive, I went to gaming, which is where I am today, which is completely different than fast food and completely different than CPG. So again, always trying to put myself, like, moving from Rio to Amazon to Bahia to Rio to Bahia to Sao Paulo to Mexico to New York to London to Miami to LA. Like, to me, it's just a continuation of a journey of putting myself in a position where I'm exposed to different things, and that I have a steep learning curve in terms of life, in terms of marketing, in terms of business, and all that.
Geez, I mean, yeah, as I say, I can't imagine that bouncing from place to place, which is obviously why, when opportunities come your way, you're not really phased if the job is
My
right.
wife goes crazy about it. My wife like suffers from anxiety. When I said, "Hey, there is this opportunity to go to LA," and she's Australian, so she loves the idea of living in LA. But like, it's like, oh my God, I need to pack all this stuff. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I've done that like 3 years. Like,
Your whole life.
yeah.
I don't.
But I think that for normal people, that can sound very daunting, I would say.
I can imagine. Yeah, no, it does. It does to me. Because when you talked about your big break, like when you were in that factory and you applied for your internship, why do you think they chose you? Because there were so many other people they could pick, but why were you the standout candidate?
Well, I mean, I think, look, I think it's probably a combination of a couple of things. Um, I think it's probably a combination of the fact that the people who interviewed me um, realized that. Uh, so let me rewind that. Like, first of all, I think it comes from the belief that you are hiring for competences and not for skills or work experience. Like, at this early in your career, even if I were doing an engineering job, I would learn on the job. Like I wouldn't be able to, oh, let me open my fluid mechanics book here and try to solve this. Like that is like, I think you learn how to think. And I think that what college taught me was like how to think, how to approach a problem, like how to work with others, and how to be resilient. Because hey, that engineering was tough. Like
I can
to get
imagine.
through. Like it was like sometimes I still have some exams from that time, and I look at them like, how the hell did I do that? I have no idea. What happened there. Uh, and I think that depending on the school you go, it also serves as a stamp of approval. So, for instance, someone who was interviewing me, probably you're like, oh, this guy is probably somewhat smart, like because he went through this, and he seems to be outgoing and good communicator, like eh, adaptable, you know, which is not because of my college, but I think probably because of my education and the way I was raised. And I think that probably caught the attention of the people who were interviewing me. Um, I think it's a mix of the hurdles that I passed through and the caliber of the school I went in college, plus getting to know me and seeing like, well, he's probably smart, but he seems to be a normal guy too. You know what I mean? Like, which is relatable, not arrogant, not like a super introvert that like can't communicate, just like a bookworm. Like, like the thing is like the more I work in marketing, or the more I work, the more I believe, the more I, I, I get confident that one of the most important characteristics for you to be successful in the job is your ability to communicate and to align people and to influence the organization to do what you think has to be done. And I think that has a lot to do with how adaptable you are, how well you communicate, how you deal with people, on top of like all your skills and experiences. And I think that they were able to pick that. Funny enough, I was interviewed by people. I remember my last round of interview. It was Simon Clift, who became the CMO for Unilever. He was in Brazil back then, and was it Guilherme? I'm trying to remember who was the other person. No, it was a guy from R&D. And they were discussing in front of me, like if I should go to marketing or R&D. The guy from R&D said, no, I think you should go to R&D. He has a technical background. He seems to be smart, like you do well there. He's innovative, seems to be creative. And Simon was like, no, 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 no. He needs to go to marketing. He would do well in marketing. And then I ended up going to marketing. I still talk to Simon, by the way, who interviewed me in 1993, 4, 5, 6, 1997, and got me into the Unilever trainee program. That like it was end of 1997. I started in 1998 out there.
But you're never going to not thank Unilever. They're the ones that gave you this big step into the industry to be
Yeah, well, look, I mean, I think it was an amazing school for me. Like, and I'm still really, like, I still cheer for them. Like, and every time I go to a supermarket, I spend an hour looking at every single product I worked on. I'm one of those people, like Alan Job, who is the CEO there now, Aline Santos, who is there, Samir, sorry, Sandeep is like my partner here at the region, like Samir, who is the CMO for personal care. Like, they're awesome people, and I own a lot. I've learned all the marketing I've learned. Like, if it were not because if it were not Unilever like investing to and being patient with me to teach me marketing, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so far, it's a really nice story actually, coming from where you were and how you did sacrifice things to get the education. Did you find that were there hardships along the way or tragedies? What was the toughest part of your life, would you say?
Um, I think that when my dad passed away, it was not easy. Like, he passed away of cancer on my last year in college. So it was really hard to go to work, go to school, go to the hospital, go to work, go to school, go to the hospital, sleep in hospital, like almost like I would spend the night there, like with him. So that was tough. It was a shame that he didn't see my graduation, right? I mean, my mom was there and my grandmother was there, but he was not there. I think in in and my sister suffering a lot. She's younger and all that, and I had to stay strong because of my mom and my sister being like the the, the I became like the male figure, like I started to like coach my sister on stuff and this and that because my dad was not there anymore. So I think that was probably like the toughest part. Of course, like there are like moments that things in the business don't go well, or maybe you have an issue on a personal life, but most of those things are amendable, right? I mean, and many times something that you are facing now, um, it's one of those things that I always try to keep things in perspective. I talk a lot about that with my wife. Like sometimes we're arguing, or she's upset with something, or I'm upset with something, and I always say like, well, this is not a real problem, right? I mean, like in a year from now, we'll not even remember that we're having this conversation. Or maybe like in a month from now, we're not going to remember that we had this conversation. Um, but like I think that those things happen. You know what I mean? And I think that it's in moments like that that you show strength. And I have to be really strong to keep my family together. And it was right on the time. Like I started Unilever, I finished college. It was all like around like the same 3 4 months. So that was hard.
Yeah, I can imagine those staying strong, isn't it, for your mom and your sister,
Yeah.
and I guess you wanted to then have the spirit of your father because he sacrificed everything for you to sort of get you that education to really help you where you are today. But what do you think if he was still here? What do you think he'd be saying to you right now?
I think he would be really proud. I think that he would like we always had a relationship. We used to make a lot of fun of each other. Right? He was a very funny guy. Um, at least I think that a lot of my sense of humor comes from him. And we would love to like tease each other a lot. So he would probably make fun of me for working with video games. He would say it's not a serious job, or like that I don't work, I'm just playing, which is bullshit, a lot. But like always for fun. You know what I mean? I think that he would be extremely proud, of what I achieved, just like my mom is. You know what I mean? Today, like I have the opportunity to fly my mom to come and see us. She was with us for 2 3 weeks, like around like 2 3 months ago. Like we didn't have like I as a kid, I think I don't remember when it was the first time I flew abroad of Brazil. You know what I'm saying? We wouldn't do those things. I like she do a long distance phone call. I would do one long distance phone call just for the birthday of my granddad to talk to him for 30 seconds. You know what I mean? We were like very constrained. Um, and to have the opportunity to share a bit of like what we have uh, and uh, and spend time with my mom and with my sister. I think it's I think I'm sure makes them really proud. I honestly don't think much about that. To be honest with you, you know what I mean? Like I think it's just happens. But I know that my both my sister and my mom are really proud, and I'm very proud of them too. My sister works on LVMH in Brazil. She I think she's leading e-commerce for Sephora at the moment. She was on Louis Vuitton like before. She did really well too.
Wow, it sounds as if your parents have done a cracking job for you and your
Yeah,
sister. Yeah, and God,
yeah.
I can imagine still, that Amazon story. I go and think, gosh, what would that be like? I can imagine it's amazing. Do you ever go back?
I mean, been to the Amazon in a very long time. I go when I go to Brazil, I usually go to São Paulo, and to Rio. Um, I haven't been to Bahia in quite some time. I have great friends of Bahia, and it's a overdue a trip there. But it's usually Bahia, São Paulo, and Rio.
Yeah. And do you think, because you had that sort of simple life, like it sounds to me as if you didn't have all the frills and as you say the air travel or, it was just basic a ball and play football. Do you think it sort of made you feel a bit more simple in how you lead your life now?
Um, I don't know, like, but like, I um, I do think like when people ask me, like, what do you do for fun? Like my stuff is like pretty normal. You know what I mean? Like, um, I go to the beach. I tend to go a lot to the same restaurants, like which are not necessarily fancy. Like we may do like a fancy dinner on our own birthday or something like this, but
Yeah.
like normally it's like pretty low key. I don't wear a watch. I don't wear jewelry. Like I'm driving, I drive a Toyota Sienna, like with the kids, I find it much easier. And I couldn't care less about the cars and car status or any of that. Um, I don't know, like I do think I still play soccer. I'm here in Miami this week. I'm playing on Thursday with friends. I love watching my soccer games. Today, my team is playing at night, so my wife is already upset ahead of time because she knows she's going to lose me for 2 hours at night. Um, and yeah, so like I do think I'm a simple, normal guy, like the stuff that I like to do. Like I don't drink whiskey. I like beer better. Like you know what I mean? Like I'm not like not against people who like whiskey, but like I'm very down to earth.
Yeah, I don't like whiskey either and I'm Scottish, so people think I'm just weird.
And I try though, like because I'm a weird guy. Because sometimes I like the concept of something better than I like something. You know what I mean? Like so. Whiskey is one of those where I'm like, I think it's beautiful, like, and I love the glasses and the decanter and the bottles and things and that. But like, it's just not my thing.
Me neither. So yeah, next time we meet up, we certainly won't be having a whiskey, that's for sure.
No,
And
we
then
have a beer together.
we can have a beer. And then to sort of wrap up, what would you say, like, you since you've come so far, like what do you think your greatest achievements been to date?
Uh, Work-wise, I think if I look throughout my career, I think I had like three moments, right? I have Unilever, Restaurant Brand International, and now Activision Blizzard. I think in Unilever, um, I was there for so long and I worked with so many really talented people. But I think that the one thing that I'm most proud of that I did was the work on Dove, which was my last work at Unilever. I was working on Dove for 4 years out of Blackfriars, which is the headquarters in London. And we did things like real beauty sketches, camera shy. We did a lot of like really cool stuff. The brand was growing, like people had trust on our plans. And it was just, and we had an awesome team. It was just like an amazing time. Um, so that I think it was a very memorable moment. I remember being in Cannes with Steve Myers was my boss when Sketches won, I think like 24 Lions in Cannes, and like and we were looking at each other like dinner, and he said, "Do you realize that that's probably never going to happen again?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I realized that." So he was like, "Let's just savor this moment." Uh, and yeah, so that was a really special time. I think on RBI, we had Burger King, Tim Hortons, and Popeyes. I worked with Burger King the longest because that was the brand that was there from the beginning, and it was there for a little bit over 7 years. I think that the most amazing moment for me that I will never forget was again in Cannes when Burger King won as creative brand of the year. Um, oh, and and I remember Simon Cook calling me to give me the news. I was in Cannes with there were 20 people of the team, and he gave me the news. I was in a bar, and we would get the award that same night. And I told him, I asked him to please not tell anyone, because I said to him that I would lie to my team, that we lost, that we're number two, because I feel that when you go to Cannes, like there are no surprises anymore. So I thought that I could give them that surprise. And it was really, really, really funny. I didn't even tell my wife. So it was really, really funny when we were in the auditorium and they were announcing the winner. And then number three was IKEA. Number two was Nike. And I told my team that Nike had won. And they fell off their chair. When Burger King came as number one. And I will still remember Ariel, who is the marketing guy for Brazil, punching me on my arm because I lied to him. Um, so that was really, really special. And here at the Vision, like I've been here for a year, I think that it's an amazing challenge, and we have like amazing franchise, and we're already doing great stuff. Like we did some really cool stuff for Call of Duty. We are doing some really cool stuff for World of Warcraft, for Candy Crush. I'm learning a lot, and I'm sure that when I look back a couple of years from now, I will this will be it's a really big challenge because the industry is evolving so fast. I think that the challenge we have is like how can we evolve faster than the industry, and he define how gaming marketing should be, but it's still in the works. You know what I'm saying? Like we already got a lot of cool stuff out of the door, but like I'm more excited about what's yet to come than what we've done.
That sounds pretty awesome. And then the final word I would like from you is, so say people are watching this at the moment and, you know, you've got people who are coming from that working class background, you've got people who are just maybe a bit lost in the world right now. What kind of tip would you give them if they want to try and lead a career like you've done?
I mean, I think my advice is biased because it's based on my own personal experience, right? Which doesn't mean that is the only way, but I think if you cannot get wrong if you're investing in your own learning. You know what I mean? Like you cannot get that wrong. So my advice would be for you to always try to put yourself in a position as much as you can where you're learning the maximum amount. You know, if you have to take a job that you're going to probably make a little bit less money, but you're going to learn more, in the long run, that job is probably going to be better. You know, when I was doing my internship, I was paying more in the car toll and gas than my salary on internship. You know what I mean? But doing internship in Unilever was very meaningful and really helped me get a better job in Unilever. But it could have been elsewhere too. So push yourself to learn. You know, in the work, if you're a student, study. If you like advertising on advertising, you know, I think that's probably the best advice I can give you because you can't get it wrong if you invest on your own knowledge.
Well, I think that's pretty sound word of advice. Thank you so much. I'm so glad to have heard your story and how you've went from that wee boy in the Amazon to just being super awesome the way you are at the moment. So thank you so much. And I'm sure we'll catch up soon.
My pleasure. It was lovely to spend some time together, and hopefully we can connect again soon.
Hopefully. Thank you.